Yes, people, we are back. KGX to the ZTV. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, turn those notifications on. I told y'all folks we were getting the channel more active. We're getting more content out there. And that's what we're doing. Bringing content to the people every day because especially during this transfer window, it is never a dull moment for Chelsea FC. So let's just talk about the big news today as it relates to Southwest 6. The big news is that we finally got a move for Renato Veiga. So, as you can see up on the screen, courtesy of Pies' Twitter, Renato Veiga has agreed personal terms and has agreed a deal with Villarreal. Chelsea gets a $25.5 million package plus a heavy sell-on clause to sell Renato Veiga to the Yellow Submarine, Villarreal. Champions League this year for Villarreal, so Vega will get to play in the Champions League. He joins fellow incomings like Thomas Partey and ex-Arsenal player Nicolas Pepe, ex-Spurs player Juan Forth, the free kick master himself. Shout out to everyone who's played Pez, knows what kind of free kick mastery Danny Parejo is on. So he joins a good side. I thought about it at first. I was like, is he better than Villarreal? And then I forgot that they finished fifth last year. They did get a Champions League qualifier. They might have a playoff game. I'm not sure, but he will be playing Champions League football in there. And overall, I thought he would go for a little bit more when the likes of Juventus were linked early, and some of the other clubs. I think Benfica was maybe even linked. I thought he would command maybe a little bit more of a transfer fee. So I wasn't 100% happy with that initial package, but with that rumored 40%, and that's a lot for a sell-on fee. I am very, very happy with that deal. I'm a little confused by Vega though, because with Levi Colwell going down and him wanting to play center back as his way of sort of finding his feet into the World Cup squad for Portugal this year, I thought maybe he would entertain staying at Chelsea, playing as sort of that left-sided center back who could step into midfield, who could play a little bit of cover at left back. I rated Vega when he was here. I actually wanted him to stay. I thought there was a player in there. I liked his profile. I thought that he was pretty decent on the ball, brings excellent size and height to the team. So for set pieces, both defending and attacking, that was pretty good. I thought he was versatile. I thought he had good strength about him. I thought he was a player that could really develop into maybe a jack of all trades, master of none, which is part of the reason why maybe Vega wanted to move. And I don't blame him, right? I don't blame him from that aspect of wanting to lock down a specific position, because that's ultimately would get him national recognition and get him into the team, Portugal's team, for which is going to be a very, very competitive team to get into ahead of this next summer's World Cup. So Vega is on the move. We desperately needed those funds. I don't know how it relates to the kind of this particular tweet right here, and there's a lot of speculation as to the sales that we've made and the funds that we've recouped in those sales. Does it have to be players that were with the squad all of last year, only half of the year? So those players that went out on loan in January that might get a move, and so forth. I'm no financial accountant. I'll leave it up to the folks over there in charge at Clear Lake. But it does look like there's some sort of ramification as it relates to the transfer fees that we got, that we've received so far, and whether or not those players were here with us for all of last year. So as you can see, heavy sale on and things like that. Other news, not really Chelsea related, but it looks like Blueco has formed a nice little partnership. I mentioned this in one of our group chats earlier, but it looks like the two feeder clubs that we have, one of them being an official feeder club in Strasbourg, and our post Clear Lake takeover feeder club of Brighton, who have blessed us with the likes of Caicedo, Cucurella, also gave us a little stinky Graham Potter. But to be fair, Graham Potter got dealt one of the worst hands, 2-7 offsuit type hand for my poker players out there. But it looks like they've agreed a deal for Julio and Ciso to spend some time over there at Strasbourg. He's a player that Brighton bought, and we know what Brighton's model is about. High promise, low fee coming in, try to develop him and move him on. I think he went out on loan last year to another either Premier League side. I want to say Leicester. He went out on loan to and fared fairly decent there. Him and El Canus. So that's an interesting acquisition from them. We did get another young talent from, and I say we, I'm talking about Strasbourg. Did get Barco, who's like an 18-year-old or 19-year-old young Argentinian international. I think he's sort of like it's kind of seen as a all-action midfielder, box to box, can even play in the 10. So it's nice to see that little partnership kind of or that little collaboration kind of developing, because that could be very, very fruitful for us, right? We know we like to send some talents there. We've got Penders there, we've got Sar there, we've got Kendry Pais there, and now it looks like we'll be adding to them in CISO. So big up Strasbourg. I'll definitely be trying to catch more games of them this year as they be nice as they sort of solidify their European spots and go for that Conference League. They're in there with Palace, and with Eze agreeing the deal today to go to Arsenal. We could see a nice little, maybe a nice deep run for Strasbourg in the Conference League, which would be monumental for a club like Strasbourg and their history and their fans and things like that. We might not value us Chelsea fans because we've seen our club win everything at all. We might not value the Conference League trophy as much as they would, but they would definitely be over the moon with a European silverware and things like that. So big up Enciso. Hope he does well there. Hope he kills it there. Still no news on the Xavi Simons front, as well as the Alejandro Garnacho front. Garnacho seems to be stalled a little bit, thankfully, because of the disagreement in prices. But they're, Manchester United, we know what they want, and we know that our valuations are completely different. I think we value him around 25, and Manchester United wants a package closer to Madueke's package of 50 million. Hopefully that's enough for us to walk away, although I don't think it is, because if you follow Fab, which I actually had to mute Fab because the Garnacho prop was getting ridiculous. Garnacho only wants Chelsea. He only wants Chelsea. Chelsea's the only thing on his mind. I even saw a picture of him today, a younger picture of Garnacho with a Chelsea like training kit on or training top on. So we know that that's a deal that's probably going to happen. The later in the window, the better, because that means that we could potentially get the best deal possible, whether or not that's a loan deal with an obligation to buy. Although I'd imagine United would be very wary of any other loan with an obligation in there, since we kind of backdoored our way out of the Sancho one. Although Sancho could have really made this summer easy for us in terms of killing all these Garnacho rumors by just agreeing to a wage cut. And look, I get it. Money is money. You only have the opportunity to earn that kind of money once in your life. But if he really loved Chelsea and we were expressed interest in keeping him permanently, he could have reduced his wages, come to London, been in the Champions League this year, continued his partnership and all of the good camaraderie that we had. We didn't hear a peep from him in terms of how he trained, in terms of his work ethic, in terms of his supposed bad attitude and things like that. So Garnacho could have really did us a solid, but unfortunately, things didn't work out, and now he's trying to find his next move. But yeah, we'll see how that Garnacho sort of plays out. Like I said, it'll probably be a deadline day deal, loan, 25 million max is what I'd pay for him. So in other news, and we'll keep this video fairly short. In other news, it looks like we might have some sort of movement for Disasi. The news that I've seen so far and what's been floating around on Twitter looks like it's going to be a loan with no obligation to buy to Bournemouth. We know Bournemouth's back line was decimated, right? They lost their Their left back in Kirkez, their two center backs. One of them I can't remember how to pronounce his name, but went to PSG, and then Huijsen went to Real Madrid. Then they lost their keeper Kepa, who went back to us, and then we sold him Kepa to Arsenal. So they're breaking in a pretty much all brand new back four, apart from their right back. We saw Liverpool put four past them, although in their defense, Liverpool can they're going to put four past a lot of folks this year with the quality that they have in attack and how they commit numbers forward. So they could be very, very open to just adding numbers to their center back the line. Ariel is a good manager. I wouldn't expect him to, if they did get Disasi on a permanent, to play him at right back like Poch did, even like Enzo did last year. So that would be a good move, although Chelsea would definitely prefer, like we do for all of our loans, a more permanent move. Speaking of more permanent moves, we'll talk briefly about the Nico Jackson. So yesterday, Nico Jackson and Nkunku. Yesterday there was some links about Nkunku being courted by Leipzig again, and then Bayern as well, who's still interested. But it looks like those two clubs are adamant that they want a loan, whereas Chelsea wants a permanent move, and I think Nkunku wants a permanent move too. I think Nkunku, a player of his age and his profile, would be much more open to a permanent solution in terms of where his near future is going to be. And I don't blame him. I mean, Nkunku is a quality player, a good player. He's a tough fit in this league where the intensity is really high, and he's not a player that fits into a lot of systems in terms of, he's not a wide player. He's not a 10. He's not creative enough in the 10. He can't dribble, and he doesn't have the pace to play out wide. He's more of that shadow striker where he can sort of excel off of a main striker, just kind of like he did at Leipzig, where he was playing in a 2. And with Leipzig losing Sesko and having that money, it would be a nice move for him. Granted, Leipzig fell last year in the table, so they don't have Champions League football, but they still are one of the bigger clubs there. So we'll see what happens with Nkunku. Inter is also linked, but we know how those Italian clubs are. They ain't got no money. So we'll see what that says. And then just lastly, we'll just talk about, there's two things. We'll talk about Sterling. There were some more rumors about Sterling to potentially go to Fulham. We'll see. Again, I expect a last-minute loan for him, or we sort of split the wages. But then also the news that we really saw was Nico Jackson. And Nico yesterday was rumored that Aston Villa is very interested in procuring him, getting his services. But they wanted a loan and Chelsea wanted a loan with an obligation to buy. The early numbers that we saw were a $10 million loan fee with a $55 or $60 million obligation to buy. Potentially could kind of grease the ways, grease the pathways for us to make a serious inquiry on Morgan Rogers. We know Villa's financial situation, which is why it will probably be a loan. Because if you loan him in with the obligation to buy, that means that they'll probably keep Watkins for one more year. They are in the Europa League. Keep Watkins one more year, then sell him, try to recoup some of that money so that they can pay for Nico Jackson. But we know that they're really, just like Newcastle, they're really hamstrung by PSR. So we'll see. I mean, I would prefer, I wouldn't mind that move. I want to see Jackson, like I want to see Nkunku, like I want to see Disasi, like I want to see Sterling, like I would want to see Chilwell with permanent moves and with their futures decided this window. We know Jackson's probably open to a move. He's probably sees himself right now way down the pecking order. Wasn't on the bench for the first one. We kind of held him out for safety precautions if you were to procure a move. So we'll see. But Nico's definitely got his suitors. There's been some other unnamed Premier League sides. We know Newcastle still needs a striker, right? They've been turned down. Their offer's been turned down a couple times by for Visa from Brentford. Brentford doesn't want to sell Visa. They see him as instrumental in sort of staying up. He's a proven goal scorer for last year, but it looks like that relationship is sour to the point where Visa hasn't even trained yet this preseason, or this season. So we'll see what transpires there. But I do think we get a move for Nico. Where that is, sort of up in the air right now, but there's definitely some suitors, and with basically 2 weeks left in the transfer window, we've got a little bit of time, and maybe some of these deals might get accelerated. So Let me know. Let me know where you think of these moves. Let me know where you think Nkunku goes. Let me know where you think Nico ends up. Let me know which one you think gets over the line first, Javi Simmons or Garnacho. But definitely make sure you guys hit that like, hit that subscribe, turn those notifications on, and we will see you at the next one. Peace.